Hello folks, this is Frank Severity Normal. Now I want to talk to you about the PCT. Oh, you never heard about it? Well, we'll get to the definition and explanation of it in a minute. Let me draw you a cart. Here's our cart with a yoke on it. This is society. Now society breaks down if they don't collect the tax money to provide the services to keep society orderly. So we have taxes. Let's see, we have income tax. We have oil royalties, resource royalties. Let's break these down into two. And oil resource royalties, which last year or in 2014 were approximately 20% of our, 20 to 25% of our overall budget. Now, we have tourism. We have tourism taxes. We have taxes on hotels. We have taxes on travel. We have a whole bunch of other taxes. I don't know what all the taxes are that Alberta collects. But we used to have Alberta Healthcare Premium Tax. How about a sales tax? Oh no, we've never had that, because for 45 years, the government of our promise told us that's your advantage. You don't have to pay that tax. In other words, they use the oil and the money from the oil in the ground to pay what should have been paid for by our sales tax, to take care of our needs. And then they wiped out the Alberta Healthcare Premium Tax, and we have no sales tax, pulling our cart. So society just struggles along. When the oil comes out of the ground and we get our royalty from it, we pay off some of our bills. But if you say sales tax, you might get beat up in Alberta, because the Tories had it that way to control us because they were in so tight with the oil companies. And the oil companies can pretty much predict the 7-year cycle of how oil goes up and down. Or they can predict in advance that if there's problem there, there's going to, on the other side of the world, and then the price is going to go up. And if there's a glut on the market, the price is going to go down. And they know these things work in cycles. And they managed it pretty well, except when Trudeau, in 1980 or 81, really screwed them over by introducing the National Energy Program. Now, this recession we're into now, yes, it was caused, everybody says, oh, it was caused by this drop in oil. But that did not happen until after we were $7.8 billion in debt at the end of 2014. And Jim Prentice had already introduced us with a budget with 52 new taxes or increases, including a healthcare tax, which they wiped out here and here. Now, why would they do that? Because they had to get income. But they won't introduce a sales tax because, oh, that's a bad thing. Every other province has it, but that's a bad thing. Listen to me. Listen hard. Let's look west. That's the only place we have to look is west. Rachel, look west. They have a sales tax. They have an a BC healthcare premium tax, which is $12 per person higher than ours was. Now, what that affords them is to have enough money to run their society so that then they can introduce, and they already have it, $30 a ton enviro taxes. they tether them onto the back, and they make them revenue neutral. In other words, when they introduce $10 a ton and they see how much money they're getting, the next year they lower these taxes so that it's revenue neutral. Revenue neutral, Rachel, doesn't mean, oh, I spent every dollar I took in, so it's revenue neutral. So next year I'm going to have to raise it so I can take in more and spend all of that, so it's revenue neutral. Because that's going to leave us, we hear $34 billion added to our already, okay, so now we were, like I said, we were $9.5 billion. We were $7.8 billion in the hole at this point at the end of 2014. And then we lost $5 billion by July of 2015. And then Rachel was in power. And she said, oh, things are worse than the Tories said. I don't know how we're going to do everything we wanted to do. So promises started to get broken right away, because that's pie in the sky budgeting that you're doing there, Rachel. If you put us, you say we're going to be $58 billion in debt by 2020. If we're $58 billion in debt by 2020, there's only 4 million people in the province. That's more than $10,000 going into debt for every man, woman, and child in this province. Even if they're 2 years old, their portion that they owe is over $10,000. Oh, you say, oh yeah, but we're going to have an enviro business. Is that why you went to Ontario? To see the stakeholders there? So, I want to bring up something else that I've already touched on. And then we'll get back to this. See these orange ones here? These orange poofas? They're not here yet, but they're coming. These are all the stakeholders that Rachel Notley went to see in Ontario, so that they could come out here and set up our greeniness and take away a hell of a portion of our $58 billion we're going to be in debt for 4 years from now. And not one of them will return a penny to the public purse in taxes. Because if you go and look in Ontario, none of the enviro companies that have been created to wean them off of their coal plants that they shut down have returned a penny to the public purse. Not one. They've all cost money, government money. And where does the government money come from? Raising the people's taxes. Are they any better off? Are they any well off? Well, 13 years ago, 16% of the economy of Ontario was from manufacturing. Now, the third highest cost in manufacturing is energy, electricity. Electricity has gone up so much that companies left town and they're relocated somewhere else. Why did they do that? They can't afford the electricity. Because in order to get companies to build windmills and solar and this and that, you have to guarantee them a profit out of the public purse. But you also have to give them tax breaks so no money comes back to the public purse. So the only real winners in all this whole deal are going to be just like it was when the Tories were in power. When the Tories were in power and they wiped out our Alberta healthcare premium system, the Poobah Masters were the big winners because they got to keep their unionized employees' Alberta healthcare premiums in their corporate accounts. And their workers are all unionized and probably all make over $50,000, which was the cutoff low for the new healthcare premium tax that Jim Prentice tried to introduce. So they would, all the employees, all the unionized employees would have had to pay that Alberta healthcare premium tax. And guess who else would have had to pay it? All the public union employees. And now, the public union heads and their lawyers, they know this. They know this, but they don't care. Do you know why they don't care? Because they're up here. These taxes won't affect them one little bit. Well, maybe a little bit. If you're making $150,000 a year and your tax load became $1,000 more a year, that wouldn't hurt very much. But if you were making $25,000 a year and your tax load got $1,000 heavier, that would hurt. And it will hurt if we allow this to happen in Alberta. So getting back to society, part of society, I'm going to propose something like they've done in BC, because they've had sales taxes in BC for as long as I can remember. And they were able to bring in their enviro taxes revenue neutral. So they don't slow down the economy. They don't slow down the economy a single bit. And actually, it gives incentive for people to solarize their houses, to insulate their houses, to buy better cars, more efficient cars, because there's an advantage to them. Their costs will be less. Now, Rachel Notley, on the other hand, has not made her enviro taxes revenue neutral. She's going to send us all into the poorhouse, especially the lower middle class. They're going to be lower on the totem pole because it's going to cost them, oh yes, she's going to send them some welfare checks. So she's going to send them $80 every 3 months, $320 back, but your costs are of living is going to go up $1,000. And that's what she calls revenue neutral, because she's going to spend all of that $680 that you're not getting back. On where is she going to spend it? On the green poobahs. Oh, and the poobahs who exist here already. Did you see them up there when she introduced her enviro taxes, standing there beside her saying, oh yeah, we can live with this? Of course they can, because they have the money to set up enviro companies of their own to get some of the $34 billion that Rachel intends to spend in the next 4 years. It's the same poobahs, just some more of them. Poobah masters. Different poobah, the same poobah masters, and some more of them coming from the east. So they can do to our province what they did to Ontario. And I know the costs have gone up in Ontario because my sister, who lives in Ontario, and I talk every day. So, now, let's get back to our society card. I'm going to show you a better way, Rachel. I'm going to show you a better way, and I hope that Brian Jean is watching this, because I'm doing this really, Brian, for your benefit, because I believe you're going to be the next Premier of Alberta. And I hope that you will bring in a proper tax regimen to take care of society's needs, so that whatever oil comes out of the ground from now on, or from the time that you take office, will go towards paying off the debt that Rachel's going to build up, paying for some of our wants, like we may want a new cancer center in Calgary. Oh, Rachel has that plan, but she has to go into debt more to do it. And for your children and your grandchildren, Brian, would it have affected the outcome of your son if there was another $7.8 billion in the healthcare system? Maybe, maybe not. But he's watching for you to do the right thing once you are in power. Okay, so we have our cart. That's not a very good cart, but anyway, there it is. Society. Being pulled along by all these taxes, including a restored Alberta Healthcare Premium Tax. And now that can be done easily because the infrastructure was there. Even though they discontinued it, I'm sure everything's on computer records. Anyway, we got all these taxes. Now, if we reintroduce the Alberta Healthcare Premium Tax, raising the low income level maybe $7,000 or $8,000, the low income cutoff where you don't have to pay it if you make less than that. So in other words, if the low income cutoff, when it was canceled and it was bringing in $1.4 billion a year, oh, never mind that. How about here? Well, we got to get the rich seniors to pay their share of the Alberta Healthcare Premium Tax, like it was intended when it was first brought in. We get everybody who can afford to paying this, and we introduce, are you ready? A provincial care tax. That means when I go and buy that $100 pair of Nikes, then I have to pay $5 more to the federal government for GST. I would also pay $5 more to the provincial government to take care of the needs of Albertans, because I care about those lower on the economic scale than I am. And once we have those two pieces in place, like they do in our neighbors to the west, then we can easily bring in. So if we brought this in at 3%, Rachel, that would bring in the $3 billion that you're raising in enviro taxes, and you could just nix that plan for now until we get our economy restored. This would probably bring us in the $1.5 billion, because the 550 or 600,000 people who have moved here since it was canceled would start paying it, along with everybody else who had to pay it. Let's say we put it, if it used to be a $20,000 low cutoff, let's say we put it $27,000. Everybody who makes more than $27,000 has to pay $44 a month, a mere pittance, as a provincial care tax. On the healthcare file, 3% here as a provincial care tax to take care of society's needs. The year after that, you could raise it up to 4%. And the year after that, which will be Rachel Notley's last year in power, she could raise it up to 5%, which would bring in $5 billion a year. Plus the $1.5 billion from that. Let's use our grade 3 math again. $6.5 billion. Well, that wouldn't really do it, would it? Not the way Rachel's spending our money, or planning to spend our money, because she's planning to spend 12 or 14 billion dollars more than we have for the next 3 or 4 years. If the interest rates go up 1% or 2%, that will take us 20 years to get out of that debt. But if we do it this way, and bring in 6.5 million, then Rachel will have done her job. Don't spend so much money, Rachel, because a lot of the things you're going to start are going to be reversed by the next government. Brian Jean, what could you do with an extra 6.5 million along with the vision that you showed us 2 days before Rachel Notley brought in her budget? What could you do, Brian, with that? I bet you could balance our books within your first term. And you could also then bring in revenue neutral, just like they have in BC, Enviro taxes. ET, enviro taxes. That's all for now, folks. I'm Frank, and I'm severely normal. Talk to you next time.